What if I told you that something as simple as car exhaust could impact mental health for generations?
Really?
Yeah, we're diving into a Duke University study published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry, and they connect childhood exposure to leaded gasoline with higher rates of depression and anxiety later in life.
Oh, wow. It's amazing how things we don't even consider can have such long-term effects. One thing that really stands out is how widespread this was. The study estimates that 170 million Americans, that's more than half the population, had concerning levels of lead in their blood during childhood.
That's a huge number, and this is before the U.S. phased out leaded gas in 1996, so anyone born before then could have been exposed.
Right. And what's important is there's no safe level of lead exposure. It's a neurotoxin, and it's especially harmful to young brains. The researchers actually compared it to a low-grade fever. You might not notice the effects immediately, but they subtly impact your well-being over time.
So it's not like acute lead poisoning, but more a gradual effect that could be a factor in mental health issues down the road.
Exactly. The study goes into detail connecting this exposure not just to depression and anxiety, but also to ADHD and even personality changes.
Personality changes. What does that mean?
Well, they saw trends towards increased neuroticism, so more negative emotions and anxiety, and also decreased conscientiousness, which is about focus, discipline, organization. Imagine the impact of that on an entire generation.
Yeah, that's significant. The study pointed out that those born during the peak use of leaded gas in the 60s and 70s had the highest exposure.
Generation X. And this builds on earlier research that linked lead exposure to lower IQ scores. The same team used a similar approach and estimated that lead exposure robbed the U.S. population of a massive 824 million IQ points over the last century.
Wow, those are some serious numbers. So we're seeing a possible link between something as ordinary as car exhaust and these major long-term effects on both mental and cognitive health.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Makes you think about the bigger picture for public health.
It does, and this study focused on the mental health and cognitive aspects, but they also mentioned a connection with cardiovascular disease.
So it's not limited to mental well-being. There could be physical health consequences too.
Exactly, and keep in mind this study looked at data from the U.S., but leaded gas was used worldwide, so the implications of this research could be much broader.
That's a bit concerning. What are the key things you think our listeners should take away from this study?
I think the most important takeaway is understanding that even exposures from decades ago can have these lasting effects on individual and societal health. It's not just history. It's relevant to us now and in the future.
It also emphasizes the need for preventative measures. We can't always reverse past exposures, but we can push for policies and practices that protect us from similar risks going forward.
Absolutely. We've made progress with banning leaded gas, but there are other environmental toxins we need to be aware of. This study is a reminder that even seemingly small changes in our environment can impact generations to come.
It's a call to action. We have a responsibility to learn from the past and make smart choices to protect our health and the health of future generations. Definitely a call for more awareness and action. What are your final thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this deep dive into this legacy of lead?
I think this study shows how seemingly unrelated things like car emissions can have these really significant and long-lasting effects on individuals and on society as a whole.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is. Our health, the environment, our choices, it's all tied together.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows how important research is in uncovering these connections and informing our decisions about public health and protecting the environment.
So for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some insights and maybe even sparked some new questions for you.
Absolutely. Always remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about the world around us, the better we can create a healthier and more sustainable future.
Well, if you found this deep dive insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe to Unlock Your Mind for more deep dives into the topics that matter.
Until next time, stay curious. Atar El Wife.